You are listening to Dove Valley Deep Divers with Erick Trickel
and Lance Sanderson.
Ball comes out of the hands of Newton. It's on the ground, picked up by T.J. Ward at the 4-yard line. Vaughn Miller did it again.
On Overtime Media.
And we are live. Mile high hello, everybody in Broncos country, and welcome into another episode of the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. My name is Lance Sanderson, back this week as your host, and joining me as always is my good friend and colleague. He is your Denver Broncos insider and Mile High Huddle senior NFL draft analyst. He is the one and only Erick Trickel. Erick, it's been kind of an interesting situation in my neck of the woods right now. I mean, I'm sitting over at a buddy's house today. We just got moved into a new place, and I haven't unfortunately got our internet set up yet, so I'm working on that. Hopefully next week we'll get that taken care of. But at least for now, I'm good to go on the podcast. We like I said, we got moved into a new place. The mice infestation, just it's kind of an update on everybody. Erick had mentioned it last week. I did have a mouse crawl up my leg while we were doing the podcast right at the end. It was awful. And then later that night and over the next 36 hours, we caught over 50 mice, 50. So the new place is really good. It's really nice. Massive upgrade. Everybody's happy. We're all comfortable now. So hopefully things will get kind of a little bit back to normalcy. But for you, Erick, what's going on, dude? How you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. Just with everything going on, just taking it one day at a time, trying to make sure everybody in my family is safe and all that stuff like that. Just with work and everything like that, man, not having to do that much, because even though I'm an essential employee, like, just don't have to do that much right now because we're not so busy at the courthouse. But being able to sit there and just bust out work for the site for a Mile High Huddle, all my scouting reports, like, basically I think they're all going to be wrapped up this next week. Good. So well in time for the draft. All of them should be up, hopefully, over like individual scouting reports on the top 100 players on my board. There's group scouting reports on about 5 to 10 players for different positions, multiple ones on that, like a lot of stuff coming out. So if you guys are wanting to get our thoughts on specific players, definitely check out milehighhuddle.com, or on my Twitter bio, there is a link that takes you to my big board. And on that big board, it actually has links to the website itself with those articles. So that's just an easier way to, just to find them instead of having to search through milehighhuddle.com. But definitely go check them out, guys, if you are interested in that.
Well, and speaking of Twitter, before we get going on this, let's just get this out of the way here really fast. Quick matter of business. You can follow us both on Twitter at Sanderson MHH, and for Erick at Erick Trickel. Notice the CK in Erick. You guys can also follow the pod at DVDD_pod. Make sure you guys are also following at Huddle Up Pod and at Mile High Huddle for instant updates on what's going on with the show, what's going on up at the website. You guys get breaking news, analysis, opinion articles, film breakdowns, stuff like that. A lot of really good content, especially with Erick going up on with all the scouting reports. The Finding Broncos, you guys, there's a specific section in the Mile High Huddle YouTube page that is dedicated specifically to the Finding Broncos videos that Erick has been doing over the last month and a half or so. So make sure you guys go and check that out. Now, today we've got just a couple of quick things before we get going on everything. Got a couple of super chats and want to welcome everybody in that was in the room. Bawana, Beast, Bronx Legend, all the guys. Chris McKay coming in with a $5 donation. Assuming Ruggs is available with the 15th pick, what do you guys have his rookie stat projections at? Now, this is kind of an interesting question, and the reason why I say that is just because with this new scheme that Pat Shurmur's bringing in, a lot of 3 wide receiver sets, and they do utilize the number 2 and wide receiver in those sets a lot. I mean, there's a high target volume in the passing game for everybody. So with Sutton basing off last season, right at 80 catches, over 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns. I mean, it's easy to see Sutton replicate that kind of production next year as well. But with Ruggs on the other side of that, is 60 to 70 catches out of the realm of possibility, Erick?
I don't think it is. Actually, if Denver were to get Ruggs, I would actually probably project that somewhere to be. And he's not just a go route runner. He doesn't bring just speed. I think a large portion of his catches would probably be actually coming off of slants or quick in routes or quick out routes. Just something to get the ball in his hands quickly and letting him use that speed to just outrun the defense. I think that he would probably add with that probably about 7 or 8 touchdowns and just have a huge year for the Broncos as a rookie just because of what his speed can bring. And not only that, the impact that he would have on what Noah Fant and Cortland Sutton are able to do would just be tremendous as well, and definitely boost their stats.
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of what you see with Shermer, I mean, yes, it's a very vertical aspect to the passing game there, but he does utilize a lot of crossing routes, which is one of the routes that Henry Ruggs definitely excels at, especially coming over the middle of the field with his speed. So now to our next Super Chat donation, really quick, Bronx Legend jumping in with a $10 donation. We appreciate that, Bronx. Good to see you as always, man. Say Isaiah Simmons, the linebacker do-it-all defensive chess piece from Clemson, falls to number 10. In my opinion, you trade up for it. Would you guys be okay with that? Now, at 10, absolutely. I think that with a chess piece like that, a guy that can come in and play all over the defensive front, he can come off the edge, he can play that inside linebacker, cover out of the slot, play a little bit of the deep safety, and if you get the right kind of a matchup, I think he can probably play a little bit on the outside as well. So it's a big chess piece for Vic Fangio to use in different kind of formations, not even just in the base package, but especially in like the nickel and dime situations, those sub packages. Isaiah Simmons is a huge fit for this. I mean, depending on the cost, I would be okay with doing it. I don't necessarily know if I'd be willing to give up a future first to do so. But if you give up 1, 2, and so let's see, 15, 46, and maybe one of our third round picks, I would be okay with that.
Yeah, for me, it would all depend on what you're giving up to get up there. I'd be all for trading up for Simmons. I mean, I think what he could do in Vic Fangio's defense would just be tremendous and really help basically everywhere else because of what he can do in coverage, what he can do against the run, what he can even do as a pass rusher. And so I would absolutely be all for it. It just all depends on what the cost is. I'm not a guy who's willing to overpay to move up. And quite frankly, I'm actually not a guy who really is wanting to move up. Not a big thing for me. I think moving down, having more shots having more darts to throw at the dartboard, I guess would be the best way to put it, is the best way to go for increasing our chances of getting a bullseye. So, but with what Isaiah Simmons can do, oh yeah, I'd be fine with it depending on the cost.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Yeah, and so you brought up an interesting point a couple weeks ago when we were talking with Nick Kendall on the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast that if you were going to trade up, one of the positions that you were going to be willing to trade up for would be at wide receiver. So a lot of the trading up for Ruggs talk there. With Isaiah Simmons, the positional value that he brings, is that something that you would specifically want to go and do?
Oh no, like it's very hard for me. It all depends on how the board's falling and everything. Because quite frankly, depending on how the board falls, I may not need to move up to 10 to get Isaiah Simmons. I mean, the Raiders, there's a lot of talk about them going not a receiver, but going quarterback. So I mean, that might help a receiver fall for them. There's a lot of talk about the Browns and the Jets wanting to go after these offensive linemen that are in this draft. So if they fall there, there's a lot of talk about the San Francisco 49ers trading down, or even going after Tua Tagovailoa, depending on how far he falls. There's a lot of talk about them looking for life after Jimmy Garoppolo because they don't believe in him being the real franchise quarterback. So there's a lot of different things that are going into play. And depending on what's still available at 10, I'd just risk it, say put at 15 instead of moving up. I mean, if Ruggs, Simmons, and Derek Brown are all there, I would bet at least one of those guys are getting to 15, and I'd be fine with any one of those three.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Now, guys, to get into the meat and potatoes of this discussion today, we're doing our final mock draft on the Draft Network for this year. This is always a very fun discussion, always a very fun time. And as always, so what we're going to do is Eric and I, we're going to be your guys' scouting department. You guys are going to be the GM. Come in with all your comments. Tell us who you want to take. And to get us kind of started off here, 5 minutes. Right now, we're going in to take a look at this, and just the way that everything has fallen so far, you got Joe Burrow, Chase Young, Derek Brown to the Lions, Isaiah Simmons, linebacker, to the Giants, Tua to Miami, Justin Herbert to the Chargers, Jeffrey Okudah falls to 7 to go to Carolina, Tristan Wirfs at 8 to the Cardinals, Javon Kinlaw to the Jacksonville Jaguars, Xavier McKinney, that's an interesting pick to me, to the Browns at number 10, Mekhi Becton, Henry Ruggs to the Raiders, which is kind of the norm that you're seeing with the Draft Network here lately. Henry Ruggs is going to the Raiders 9 times out of 10, or so it would seem. CeeDee Lamb to the San Francisco 49ers, and Andrew Thomas to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So this brings up a very interesting discussion. And I know that if we had Zach Kelberman on right now, he would be doing backflips because he is all about taking an offensive lineman or a wide receiver to help out with Drew Lock. And you have one of arguably the best offensive line prospect in the class in Jedrek Wills available. And also you have Jerry Judy, who is my number one wide receiver in the class. Now, Eric, you brought up kind of an interesting point on this, and I see we got a super chat. We'll go and grab that really fast. as per Jedrek Wills, to kind of bring some spice into this conversation, not only can you play him have him as a developmental tackle, you think he can slide in at right guard and succeed right away, don't you?
I definitely do. And quickly before this, since we had a lot of comments about it, guys, Lance and I, we did discuss doing trades and everything. And as well, I thought about it, and I raised it up to him today about this, is that it's just going to be very time consuming, because then we have to figure out how far down we want to trade, what the trade's going to detail, and then if it fails, what then. So we just decided we'll just stand pat. It's a little bit faster. We do only are limited on time with this, so. But there's a lot of Judys in the comment section already.
I'm seeing a lot of Judys already.
With Jedrek Wills, that's the way I would go personally with this. Is I like Jerry Judy. I think he's a really good receiver. I'm very concerned about his hands. He had I think it was like a 9.3 drop percentage. And actually, just this last week, I did a Twitter poll about it, where without giving out the names, it was the yards per attempt, or yards after catch per reception. And can't remember what the other stats were, but one of the stats was the drop percentage. Well, of the 4 receivers, number 1 was CeeDee Lamb. Number 2 in votes was Henry Ruggs. Number 3 was Denzel Mims. And by a wide margin, too. I mean, CeeDee Lamb took it. Henry Ruggs by a wide margin before 3 and 4. Denzel Mims was the number 3rd. And then Jerry Judy. Definitely concerned about his hands. I go Jedrek Wills simply because I'm not super on board with going offensive line. While I do want the receivers, is his ability to step in, play right guard, and then you can have Graham Glasgow is moving over to center. You can have a starting 5 offensive line. And then if Juwan James gets hurt, you can move Jedrek Wills over to right tackle and insert Elijah Wilkinson, or just insert Elijah Wilkinson at right tackle. And if that's the case, I mean, Wilkinson has issues in pass coverage. He can be tremendous when it comes against blocking, or it comes to run blocking. So that's going to be a huge thing for that as to why I'm looking that way. I like Jerry Judy, but again, I'm looking at Jedrek Wills just because of what all he does for this. And he had like a 9.3 drop percentage, so something that's very concerning.
Yeah. And actually, Noah Capella, friend of the show, a friend of mine from another website, comes in, and I'm going to just pull this up here really fast and have you go through it really quick while I go and grab Paul on the super chat here. But below is our official drop percentage numbers for the previously mentioned wide receivers. Michael Pittman's on there. I mean, just so you guys can take a look at that. That's just a very interesting that's a very interesting kind of piece of information. We thank you for providing that for everybody, Noel. Now, Paul coming in. Paul, big friend of the show, big time supporter of Dove Valley Deep Divers. $20 donation. We appreciate you, man. Thank you for joining us. Erick's dartboard money, he says. I'm thinking we move down on this one. You know, it's not a bad idea. I'm so smitten with Jerry Judy that I think that in this particular scenario, Jerry Judy pairing up with Cortland Sutton would be an amazing pair. I think that just I understand your issues with the drops and everything like that, but when he does catch the football, he's so elite after the catch. He can go. I mean, he's fast enough to. I believe so. He's very good at shedding tackles, very agile, very good at escaping pursuit. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought really fast. But anyways, I think that just after the catch, he's probably the best wide receiver in this class. And I'm not saying that because of a speed standpoint, but just the agility that he has and his ability to shed tackles is more of the thing that I really like there. He's also a very good route runner, arguably one of the best route runners in the class. So that boosts up, and I've been smitten with Jerry Judy since like August. So I don't know. That's just the kind of direction that I would see us going. Terry Randall coming in from Canada. Thank you. Showing that Broncos country is not a geographic location. It is, in fact, a hashtag state of being with a $2 donation. No Eric's tie rocks too, he says. But getting back to this, I'm seeing a lot of Judy still. I don't really, as I obviously have made it clear, I don't agree with that. And part of it for me is I don't think Jerry Judy's worth it. I don't think that passing up on a guy like Jedrek Wills, who was the best tackle on his team, he's one of the best tackles in this class. Like, I don't agree with passing it up for a guy who had an 8.3 drop percentage and averaged 7.8 yards after a catch per reception. Like, that's just mediocre numbers for me. That's not a guy that's worth 15, especially when you look at these guys who are that same kind of mold as Jerry Judy, guys who are really good route runners that come into the NFL and they just don't contribute the way that you expect them to. We've seen that with Calvin Ridley. We've seen that with Riley Ridley. We've seen that with Deshaun Hamilton. We've seen that with a lot of receivers of that same type of mold. So
I'm just iffy about them pick. That's the way we're going to have to go because that's the way the chat wants. I'd go Jedrek Wills, and after this draft, I'm handing in my resignation.
Good answer. Well, let's lock this in really quick. Jerry, Judy going down here. Let's go grab some of these comments really fast because I saw a very interesting one here from I think it's this one here. Anthony Velasquez coming in on YouTube. He says, I don't understand why everyone wants to trade down. We don't need all these picks. We should use them to trade up and get the best players in this draft. Now, Anthony, I kind of agree with you, but also I disagree. Just because I'm not a very big fan of trading up, it very rarely works out for the person that is trading up. You got to get a massive return on the investment. And if you're going to go get a wide receiver, like I said earlier, Eric, you had said this before, that if you're going to trade up for any position, wide receiver seems to be one of the positions where you can actually do so and get a quality return on your investment. I mean, look at what happened with Julio Jones. Now, as far as trading down, I agree with that as well. A big reason to that is because the Broncos currently have 78 players on their roster, and there's only room for 12 more spots. They have 10 draft picks already, and they're going to want to bring in some guys as undrafted players to fill out the roster. They don't need to use all 10 of those picks. They can go up and get somebody if they want to. Now, in the first round, I'm not for that. In the second round, sure, if you want to go up and get like a Cesar Ruiz or like Lloyd Cushenberry if he falls that far, maybe Denzel Mims falls out of the first round, you can go back-to-back wide receivers, or say you get like a Javon Kinlaw at 15, you can go get a wide receiver in this deep class. If you're going to do that, I think that I'm okay with it. But in the first round, I'd rather stand pat at 15, see how the board falls, take the best player available at a position of need, and you're probably going to walk away significantly happy with doing so.
So here's my thing with the whole. Here's my argument with the whole. Oh, Denver doesn't need to have that many uses for as many picks. All right. So do you want to roll with? Let's see here. Your primary backup fullback, even though it's not important, as Jeremy Cox? Do you want to roll with your backup left tackle as Jake Rogers? Do you want to roll with your depth receivers currently being Deontay Spencer, Fred Brown, Jawan Renfrey, Trinity Benson, and Kelvin McKnight? Do you want your backup right guard right now to be Tyler Jones, your backup right tackle to be Calvin Anderson, Kyle Pecco as your backup nose tackle, like Malik Reed as a backup? Like, it's when you have these many picks, it's about improving the depth as well. Not all these guys are going to come in and be starters, but Denver's depth is atrocious. It has to be fixed. So while I do agree that there is a certain max amount of picks, I think sitting at 10 is right about that point. I think that you can move down and then use some of those picks to move back up and just move around the board a little bit. Like, it's not just a thing of, oh, we're moving down, we're going to use all those picks. Gain some extra picks. I mean, moving down, say Denver moves down from 15 to 25, they're able to pick up, say, another second and a third next year. Like, that third next year can come in huge. What if Drew Lock ends up failing this year and the Broncos end up picking, say 7, and they want to move up and get Trevor Lawrence or Brock Purdy? You can't just look at the current year. You have to look at the future as well. And if Denver can go get a future third-round pick or even a future second-round pick and getting another pick this year, I'd be for it because of what it opens up with them down the road, too.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Yeah, that's completely fair, and I agree with that. Look at what the Broncos did last year. Just for example, trading out of number 10 to get down to number 20, picked up 2 third-round picks, one in the same draft class that they ended up using to go and get Drew Lock, and also a third this year that they have right now at their disposal if they want to move up again. So let's go back over to this really fast. Broncos in the second round. We're going to go take a look at the last 5 picks for everybody. T. Higgins to Jacksonville, Jeremy Chin, unfortunately, to the Chicago Bears, KJ Hamler to the Colts, Marlon Davidson to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I missed one in there, but at the top of the board, there's a developmental tackle prospect sitting right there for you. In Ezra Cleveland, you got Terrell Lewis, an edge prospect from Alabama. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, running back's probably going to be off the board here. I mean, just with Melvin Gordon addition, I think that the Broncos are probably going to hang away from the running back position in this particular instance, and at least until probably the day 3 to go get another kind of a flex back that they can get coming out of the backfield. But I mean, there's a lot of stuff to work with. You got Cushenberry down there at number 56 overall. Trevon Diggs is still available. I mean, there's a lot to work with, guys. So, Eric, I'm going to let you go ahead and take it away, and let's just break this down a little bit for him. In this particular scenario, is Ezra Cleveland the next player that you want to go after here?
I'm kind of iffy on that. See, and I don't want people to mistake it that I really do want Denver to get the wide receiver. I've been saying for a while that wide receiver is the weakest position for it, but you have to factor in fit. And my issue with the first pick was Jerry Judy. Well, he's a good fit. I don't like the traits that he's bringing. I don't think he transitions well to the NFL because we've seen those types of receivers not transition well to the NFL. His drop percentage of whatever it was, 9.3, I think is what I said, is what it was according to Pro Football Focus. That's not good. That is a bad number to have. He had, I think, like 4 drops this last year, maybe 5. I can't remember exactly how many. I'm trying to get Pro Football Focus to load up with that. And Denver did have a 12th rated offensive line last year. Yeah, that's great. But Garrett Bowles, are you picking up his 5th-year option? Juwan James, he can't stay on the field. I mean, Denver, they don't have a center right now. So getting a guy like Jedrek Wills to give them a center, give them a guard, and give them a future tackle, I think that brings a lot more value than Jerry Judy. So at this point I would have gone that route because now you have a lot more options with what you can do. When you're getting Ezra Cleveland, you still have to get a center. You don't have an option there because he's not a guy who can play in at center. So I would probably go Ezra Cleveland with this pick simply because of the developmental tackle option that they have. But I'm not happy about it. I'm not happy really with any of the players that are left on this board at this point. I would also look at Jaylen Johnson if he's still available because I think that he can step in and contribute right away in the Broncos scheme. I think that he is such a tremendous fit for them. I like him better than Trayvon Diggs. I like him better than AJ Terrell, at least when it comes to the Denver Broncos. It's a slight reach for it, but I mean, you got to kind of to get a player of his caliber with his fit. You're going to have to reach a little bit for it. So it would either be Ezra Cleveland or Jaylen Johnson for me at this point.
Well, we're seeing a lot of action over here in the comment stream about Lloyd Cushenberry III, the center from LSU. Speak on him just a little bit. Actually, hold on really fast. We got a super chat here from Terry Randall coming back in from Canada once again. Thank you, Terry. We appreciate you, man. Say we get one of the top 3 wide receivers. What do you think Locke's under for passing yards at? I think he pushes 4,500. Keep it rocking, guys. Well, Terry, thank you for the donation, man. We really appreciate that. I think 4,500 yards is probably a decent baseline. I don't know, year 2 in a new system, just got to, again, with another offensive coordinator, this is his 5th in last 5 years or something like that. He's never had a stable offensive system around him. Now, he did throw for 1,200 yards in 5 or 12 or 1,400 yards in 5 games last year. So the promise is there, and I could see it actually kind of happening. But 4,500 is a pretty good number, Eric. What do you think?
I think that would be right where it is. I think that he might. Let me say, if they get Lamb or Ruggs, I think he'll push that number. If they just end up with Judy like they do in here, I think we're looking at somewhere around the 4,000 mark. And it's simply because of what the issues that Jerry Judy brings to the table is. I'm not going to lay off that drop percentage because that is a very concerning number. And when you add in a guy who can sling it like Locke does and put the velocity on it does, the hands get worse. And it isn't an issue of focus with Jerry Judy. It's his hands just aren't good enough to consistently make the catch. He very much follows that path of being a great route runner. No denying that. He is the best route runner in his class. But as I stated, there's just not that trend of success after that. I mean, Calvin Ridley is having an all right year. I mean, he's picked up 800 yards, about 850 yards each of the last 2 years on average. But Riley Ridley, who was on the same mold, is barely done anything. So I don't know. For me, it just depends on what receiver we're getting on how Drew Lock is doing this year.
Yeah, that's fair. So going back through this comment stream, I saw one really fast. I'm going to address this again just quickly. Manny Wise coming in on YouTube. Why are you guys not doing any trades in this draft yet? Now, I did plug this earlier that we were going to do some trades, and unfortunately, just with the time constraints that we had and trying to get everybody's comments and stuff like that lined out on what's the value, where can we move up, who are we going to try to target, if we're going to move down, something like that, it's just going to take too much time. So unfortunately, we didn't do with the trades. We do apologize for that, but it's just too long to do something like that. Now, as I was going back through, Lloyd Cushenberry, man, he's all over the comment stream. Speak on him. Is he a fit for what the Broncos want to do with Pat Shurmur's scheme?
I'm not sold on Lloyd Cushenberry at 46. I like him if Denver were to trade down 5-6 spots. I'm fine with it there. I think that there are just enough concerns for him that might not see him start right away in the NFL. And while he's a good fit for the Broncos scheme, I still have those questions about it. Not the way I would go with this, and it's hard because I think that he has potential to be good. And do you want to go on that potential and just developing him and maybe not have him start this year, or you want to go get somebody else on that? It just depends.
Yeah. Well, going down, and go ahead, Eric. Excuse me.
And somebody out here, I want to grab this comment. Such disrespect. 5 drops a year doesn't mean a loss of 500 yards. No, but the loss of speed from Hightower potentially could. See, the thing was with what Lamb and Ruggs can do, Judy can't. He's not helping open up Cortland Sutton and Noah Fant as much as those 2 receivers are, because Jerry Judy, he has all right speed, but he's not a guy who's going to sit there and consistently drive down the field like you can get from Lamb and Judy, or Lamb and Ruggs, I mean. And Pat Shurmur's offense is very much on spacing out the receivers, and Jerry Judy is actually just kind of clogging the short area of the field. I'm not a fan of Jerry Judy for Pat Shurmur's scheme.
That's all right. And here comes in Bawana Beast. He is I like to call him the bouncer of the Huddle Up podcast. He comes in and he says, I think the pick is in, and I think it's Cushenberry. And I'm, unfortunately for Eric, I think I'm going to end up having to agree with that. So there's just too much noise in there. So let me scroll down really quick and grab that. This is turning into quite the interesting discussion, quite honestly, just with everything that's going on. I mean, Eric is now, we're 2 for 2. I mean, I would have gone with like a Trevon Diggs there. That would have been just to go get that other cornerback. I still think that cornerback is a huge need. And until the Broncos go out and get a guy in free agency, I'm still going to pound that table. And in the first 2 days, the Broncos need to go out and spend high capital on a cornerback. Trevon Diggs, I love the length. I love the physicality. I love everything that he does. I think he's a little bit better in man than he is in zone, but I mean, whatever, he can still play zone effectively. So it's just, I don't know. I probably would have gone with the cornerback there, but it is what it is. So let's go grab some of these comments really fast.
Hey, Beast, I don't undervalue centers. I actually like Cushenberry's game. I think that if we were going center at 46, I would much rather have Matt Hennessy. I think he is a guy who can start right away. I would much rather have Cesar Ruiz, who I think is worth a first-round pick. Not a fan of Cushenberry for the Broncos offense because I don't feel that he is starting day one, and Denver is lacking a starter day one. I get they believe in Patrick Morris. I don't. That's what it comes down to. That's what scouts got to look at is I think that just basically Matt Hennessy Cesar Ruiz, which he wasn't there. I think either one of them would be better fits for the Broncos than Lloyd Cushenberry would, especially at 46. I think 46 is just a little bit rich.
Yeah. And to go back into another pick, I was looking down across the players that were available. Jaylen Johnson was still available, by the way, just so that everyone is aware. Let's go back into this really fast because kind of move this forward a little bit. Broncos are back up on the clock. Holy cow, Kyle Duggar fell a long ways. Damon Arnett to the Chargers. Malik Harrison, linebacker out of Ohio State, to the Cardinals. Jordan Brooks, linebacker, Texas Tech, to the Jaguars. Rashard Lawrence, LSU, to the Browns. Kyle Duggar to the Colts. Antonio Gibson, a guy that I was really kind of hoping was going to fall just a little bit further because I think he fits a lot of what the Broncos want to do as far as getting their wide receivers out or the running backs out in the passing game. He did play wide receiver at Memphis, so that kind of sucks that he is not on the board. But best players available: Ashton Davis, Lucas Niang, Cameron Dantzler, Prince Tegawanago, Adam Troutman, Bryce Hall. A lot of offensive linemen still on the board, and this is kind of wild, man. I mean, Lucas Niang is a guy that, Eric, I know you're extremely high on, and just with everything that's going on in the world today, with all of the travel bans and everything like that, not being able to go out, social distancing, stuff like that, a lot of teams aren't privy to the medical rechecks and everything like that they had at the combine. And Lucas Niang, with that knee, with that hip, he's a potential faller, but I know that you, Eric, have him as a tail end of the first round, middle second round grade kind of a guy. To see him still on the board as an offensive tackle development piece, I don't know, man. We've already done some bolstering on the offensive line. Do you think that we need to go and get Niang to come in as that developmental tackle piece as well?
Hey, no, just so you know, man, I've done a lot of work on these guys myself. I get other people have different opinions. That's fine. But, man, this is – I'm giving my opinions on these players. So I appreciate you sitting there sharing NFL.com's opinion or thoughts on Hennessy. It's awesome. I just don't feel the same way about Cushenberry or Hennessy as they do. But anyways, with this is my issue with Lucas Niang, and the reason for my grade is that I don't have access to his medicals. I don't know how severe the concerns were outside of hearsay from what they came at the combine with how changes are that to the draft process. There's a lot of talk that he might fall somewhere day 3. I think because of those concerns, which are very valid, I've spoken to a lot of people in the NFL about this, is I'm going to I think we should stay away from here. But I'm probably going to be overruled on this, which is why I'm currently writing down my resignation. But one guy actually that I really wanted to talk about at 46, and I completely spaced it, was Jeremy Chin. I think that he would have been a really good pick at 46. But at this point, with looking at who's left, I think that at this point is you still have to fix your issues at cornerback. I think that there's still a lot of issues there. I mean, Bryce Callahan, can he be trusted to stay healthy on the field? AJ Boye, is he going to bounce back? Isaac Yadam, I've heard that they're considering moving him to safety. Duke Dawson, he's been using as more of a safety. Devontae Harris, he really struggled down the stretch last year. You got to go get a guy. Bryce Hall, I have concerns about his tackling. There's concerns about his ankle and everything like that, which is why I think he ends up falling to the third round. But he's a guy I'd be looking at because if he is healthy and if Denver can clean up his tackling a little bit, he's a tremendous fit. That's the where I would be going. But all right, you guys who are the GMs, you guys can go decide to go against me.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Now, Chris Sanders coming in and he says, is Chin on the board? Actually, no. And I was going to not necessarily interrupt you on this one, Eric, but Jeremy Chin was taken at 43 by the Chicago Bears in this simulation. So he wasn't even on the board at 46. But, yep. Now, this is Samuel Caleb coming in on YouTube, and he says, Cameron Dantzler, cornerback from Mississippi State, right? Mississippi State. I know that in our group chat earlier today, Eric, and I'm going to point this directly at you. Carl had done a community mock draft, and he had took Cameron Dantzler, and you said, if you give me any other cornerback in that particular spot, I believe is the first pick of the third round, which is where we're currently sitting at, give me any other cornerback other than Cameron Dantzler, and I would be happy with what you have done. Why is that?
I'm not a big fan of Cameron Dantzler. I don't like his game. I think his game is very limited in the NFL. I think he's very scheme limited in the NFL. I think his usage is very limited in the NFL. Just a very, very just limited player. And the thing I find funny is that his pro day came around, and he did this, and they released a video of it and showing that he ran a 4.38, which no NFL team, no analyst that I've spoken to, no one has him running a 4.38. Just out of their mind. And then I get a text message from a source of mine with an NFL team saying that they handed the video over to their IT guy, and their IT guy found evidence that they actually sped up the video, and that when they kind of went back and re-edited or changed whatever it was that they did, that they actually had him running about a 4.55, 4.56, something like that. So definitely some speeding up there if my source is being right with this and everything like that. Having the evidence and everything. So, I mean, that bothers me a little bit. Not a thing that I'm going to just sit there and kill him for. But, yeah, it just comes down to his fit. I'm not a big fan of his game. I'm not a big fan of his transition to the NFL. I'm not a big fan of his scheme, of his fit within the Broncos scheme.
Yeah. So going over to the comment stream here, and this is a guy that I fell in love with. He was one of the first ones that I got a chance to take a look at. Bryce Hall, cornerback out of Virginia. And this is the reason why I say this, Eric, and I know that you just went on your little tangent about Bryce Hall, but even though you've got the injury concerns and whatnot like that, he's a quality tackler. I think that he's better suited as a move to safety and to play that Will Parks role. I think that would be a perfect fit in Vic Fangio's defense. Bryce Hall, to me, is one of my prime targets in the third round for the Broncos. I think that it's a good value for him. I think that obviously I think it's a good fit. So I don't know. And there's a lot of comments coming in with Bryce Hall as well, if I'm looking at this correctly. Let's see here. Jinja Ninja 88 coming in on YouTube. He says, how do you feel about Hightower at wide receiver with our final third round pick so we can go O-line in the first two rounds?
It all depends on how else the board falls there. I mean, if Henry Ruggs or CeeDee Lamb are there at 15, I mean, not talking outside of the smock, obviously, is that's the way I would go over an offensive lineman. I don't think it depends on what the offensive lineman is, who else is available. John Hightower, I like him a lot. Big fan of his. I actually remember pointing him out to Nick back in November, I think it was, maybe October. Early on in the season, I pointed Nick his way. I still really like his game. At that point, though, if Devin Duvernay is still available, that's the guy I'm actually looking at over Hightower. I think that he has a little bit more upside than Hightower does.
That's fair.
And better hands. Like, Devin Duvernay's hands are freaking ridiculous.
Yeah, he had like one career drop or something like that.
Oh
Texas. It was just absolutely insane. Let's see here. See if I can't pull up some of these comments really fast. Troy Pride Jr. is still available as well. I know that's a guy that you're really high on. What about the linebacker out of CU, Davion Taylor? Kenneth Booker coming in on YouTube. Davion Taylor in this kind of an area seems like a pretty decent fit. I know that Akeem Davis-Gaither is still available as well. Let's just pull that up really fast. I saw a lot of comments before it kind of slowed down about going and getting Bryce Hall. So I think that's kind of the direction we're going to go. Eric, do you agree with that, or do you want to go somewhere else?
I think that the comment section has spoken that Bryce Hall is the pick.
Okay, so we're going to go with Bryce Hall here. We're going to come back to this really fast, see if I can't grab another couple of questions while this is still going.
Hold on real quick. What website are we using? We use the Draft Network's mock simulation. I know Pro Football Network has one, and I guess Pro Football Focus has one too. Like, I had somebody send me a mock from theirs that I haven't actually seen before. So definitely some options there. I prefer the Draft Networks, though. I think that theirs is the best.
I actually agree with you, Eric. And the reason I say that is just because that's what these guys do year round. I mean, you've got what is it, John Ledyard? I think, or is he the one that ended up resigning? I know that you got Kyle Krabs. Say what?
He was the one who resigned.
Okay, so Joe Marino is the one that's still there. Jordan Reed, Kyle Krabs, those guys. This is literally what they do. Benjamin Solak, they all do this all year round. Like, so the Draft Network, I'm going to go with the guys that spend even more time than Eric does, which seems like it's a literal impossibility. Now, getting back to the mock draft, let's see here. Go down a few picks, see who was taken recently. You've got Eno Benjamin right after the Broncos, Cameron Dantzler, Ashton Davis, Damian Lewis, and Bryson Hopkins off the board. So going back to the top of the list, still with the offensive tackles and Lucas Niang and Prince Tegawanago, Matthew Pert as well. Troy Pride Jr. still there. Terrell Burgess, a safety that you are very high on as well, but that doesn't necessarily fit with the Bryce Hall pick. Akeem Davis-Gaither, Darnay Holmes, Ben Barch, an offensive tackle, offensive guard guy, small school guy out of St. John's that I know Eric's really high on. Absolutely showed out at the Senior Bowl as well. My guy, Logan Wilson, linebacker out of Wyoming, finally getting some love on the Draft Network here at number 100. So there's a lot of interesting options here. Van Jefferson as well, another quality route runner. With Jerry Judy coming in, and the fact Van Jefferson to me is completely off the board right now, especially with having Tim Patrick in the fold, Deshaun Hamilton as well. I think that if you're going to get a wide receiver, you're going to look for like a Devin Duvernay here, Hightower as well. Another couple of the speedier guys. Van Jefferson just doesn't fit the mold right there. So let's see here. Going to the comment stream, everyone coming in and showing the Wyoming love here. Logan Wilson all over the place. Eric, what about Logan Wilson is one of the best fits for this Broncos defense?
I don't think he is. I think he's just a slightly better version of Josie Jewell. Like, he can definitely help the Broncos, but I don't think he's exactly the type of linebacker the Broncos need. And anyways, looking at this point I'm looking at Matthew Pert, because outside of the once you get out, basically Matthew Pert at this point is the last real high caliber offensive tackle in the draft. So if you're passing up on Matthew Pert at this point, you're passing up on all tackles, because there's no one else really worth it for the Broncos after this point. So that's the way I'd be going. Maybe, I don't think he'd fall to 95. I think that at the very least at 95, Akeem Davis-Gaither, Terrell Burgess, or Logan Wilson, I think one of those three will be available there. I don't think that's the way you got to go right now. But Matthew Pert, I don't think he's definitely going. I definitely think he will go after this. So I think that's the way we have to go. But there's been a lot of Akeem Davis-Gaither comments.
Yeah, I just had a couple of Perts coming in. Here's another one right here. I did see an Akeem Davis-Gaither comment as well. Here's a good question for you from Ginger Ninja coming in. Is it possible that Trey Marshall is actually ready to be the third safety? Vic's system is safety-friendly, and he showed promise. Developmental guy. I actually kind of like Trey Marshall. I don't know, as far as playing in the slot, I don't necessarily think that he can do it very well. So you're going to go in a different direction. Honestly, I'd rather have Terrell Burgess there, but that's just me. So to kind of scroll back up to this, Anthony Velasquez coming in on YouTube. Eric, who are you higher on, Troy Dye out of Oregon or Logan Wilson?
Troy Dye. Don't get me wrong. I think Logan Wilson is a fine guy. I don't think he's a tremendous fit for I don't want to say not a tremendous fit. I don't think he's the best option for the Broncos linebacker position without just continuing to limit themselves with their athletic ability and coverage upside. Yes, he played well at Wyoming in coverage, but just how they use him in coverage a little bit, I don't see that transitioning the best to the NFL. I think he's going to be exploited a little bit more often than that. And I think that at most you might be getting a slight improvement over Todd Davis with him. That's just my opinion with Troy Dye. I think he has a lot more upside than that. I think that he offers more in the coverage of game. I think that he offers up more as a run defender. So between those two, I definitely like Troy Dye more than Logan Wilson. And it's not that I don't like Logan Wilson. I just want to make that clear. I like Logan Wilson. He's just outside of my top 100 personally, but it's just I have concerns about his transitioning to the NFL.
And that's fair. Not necessarily the most athletic guy. Just has a nose for the football. Over 400 tackles at Wyoming, 10 interceptions over the course of his career. Had a couple touchdowns as well. I love him. Obviously, I'm the Wyoming homer, so I would love to go in that direction. But after scrolling through this comment stream, I mean, the guy that is one of your guys, and I know that you've been pounding the table with him for a long time, Akeem Davis-Gaither had a lot of comments just a few minutes ago. So I'm going to lock that one in right now. Just get that out of the way and continue on with this. Come back.
Say goodbye to offensive tackle.
Say goodbye to offensive tackle. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, but with everybody falling right now, with Lucas Niang falling, Prince Tegawanago falling, there's still a couple of offensive tackles there. And I know, like I said earlier, you have Lucas Niang as one of your top-rated tackles in the class. So there's still a possibility here that we can get Lucas Niang at 95.
My thing is without having certainty about his knees, it's hard for me to go with him. I mean, it's not just the knees, it's the hips, and there has been a lot of concerning stuff about it. I think that 95, I can live with it. I don't think it's the best, but I mean, at this point, I mean, you may not have another choice because we passed up on all the other potential future offensive tackles that are in this class. So you can maybe kind of stuck with it. But this is the point where I'd be looking at Terrell Burgess. Akeem Davis-Gaither, I really do like that pick. I absolutely love what he brings to the defense. I love what he can do in Vic Fangio's defense, the versatility, being able to go out and cover in the slot just fine, being able to play back and a little bit as a safety, being able to play off the edge. Really like that. I think that he's kind of a not quite the same mold as Isaiah Simmons, but definitely a light of him. So I do like that pick. But yeah, I think at that point, I think I would have gone with, as I said, Matthew Pert, because the offensive tackles are gone.
Yes, they are. I'm looking at this right now. Jalen Hurts is the top prospect available. In fact, both Lucas Niang and Matthew Pert went at 93 and 94. They went back-to-back, so the Broncos missed out on that one. But as you said, going towards that safety position, Terrell Burgess is still sitting right there looking pretty. I mean, this is a pretty good turnout, at least. I agree with you with the offensive tackle depth coming in. It's not necessarily – the Broncos missed there. I think that you probably should have went with Pert or Niang, one of the two. I mean, whatever your flavor is. I really do like Matthew Pert and his length. Man, he's 6'8", it's like 36-inch arms. Absolutely, he's a gorilla, dude, and he's got a good technical base with his feet. His footwork is very good. Has a pretty decent punch. I'm not sure about his running game. He's a very good pass protector, though. So, and as we go, and here come all the comments flowing in here. Burgess. I mean,
I think at this point, you definitely got to look at Burgess. There are a couple comments that I want to just address. I am Supreme 22. Is Eric going to slap everybody in the stream? No, but I'm just tendering my resignation. So, Jody Moncrief, Eric, are you on the Wilson is better tackle than Thomas? Me, no, I want Thomas round one. I don't think Wilson is better than Thomas right now. I think that Thomas is definitely the better prospect. I think Wilson has a lot more upside. And Andrew Thomas just gives me the willy-nillys because of his balance. I mean, I've never seen an offensive tackle have more issues with balance when scouting him than Andrew Thomas. And balance is one thing that you just don't see corrected in the NFL. So
that's very true. That is very true. That's one of those things. Coaches like to have raw athleticism. And I mean, Andrew Thomas is a fairly decent athlete, but he's very top heavy. He gets on the ground a lot. So I can see why that would continue to be a problem. You cannot teach athleticism. And that's the thing. If you're already top heavy and you've got, he's good with his footwork. He gets his hips nice and down. He does a good job in his back pedal, but he's just so top heavy. And if he gets pushed away and he's not stepping that correct direction, he ends up on his back. That's a very hard coachable issue to teach. Now, if you have a guy that is raw athletic like Tristan Wirfs, who does have good balance, who does have good footwork, good hand placement, good power, stuff like that, I can see why you would fall off of Andrew Thomas there as well. So, but let's see here.
So, just a quick couple things. Bonnebeast, where's the tackle from K-State? Probably playing guard in the NFL. I don't agree that that's the best thing for him, but he's definitely a guy that I think will actually end up going undrafted because of the other circumstances revolving around him that I really don't want to get into. Kenny Dietz, terrible with names. If I butchered it, I totally apologize. Not intentional. Should have Eric do a mock on his own and explain his selections. That's definitely something that we could look at, Lance, because I got to do my final 7-round mock draft for milehighhuddle.com. So I was probably going to get that in this week. So maybe next Friday or Saturday.
Yeah, we can do something like that. That actually sounds like a pretty fun episode. Now, guys, we're actually getting really, really long here, so we need to come back. Let's get back to the draft here. Let me pull it up on my screen. Terrell Burgess, I saw a lot of comments from that. We're just going to go ahead and grab that.
I was going to say, what about Jake Fromm?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Perfect backup quarterback in the NFL.
Right?
Yeah,
we have Drew Lock. It feels so nice not to have a quarterback to worry about.
Oh, I know it. Holy cow. It's such a breath of fresh air to not have to have this discussion over and over and over again. I really wanted to pound my head on the table for the last 2 years. Absolutely awful.
So, real quick, Jody, Bowles' athleticism was vastly overrated. People were talking about how he's super athletic, and he really wasn't. He tested out just decent as an athlete. But there are other concerns with him. I mean, the dude just doesn't learn and take to learning that well. Those aren't issues with Isaiah Wilson.
The thing about with Garrett Bowles is he did actually have a learning disability. He's very young, like as far as his football career is going. Like he's 25 years old when he got drafted, but at the same time, he'd only been playing in collegiate football for like 2 years. He'd barely even played football. He never played football in high school. Got his life turned around because he was a misfit. Had a whole bunch of prior misdemeanor charges and stuff like that. Finally got his life turned around. Got religious. Became a family man, and also then found out that he's fairly decent at playing football. So that's how his story is gone. And the raw athleticism with him, it was more of we've got an athlete here. He's fairly athletic, and we can work with that. Now we just got to teach him the game and actually get him up to speed. And he never actually took to that because he does have these learning disabilities. And I still think that there's a little bit of immaturity issues with him. That's just my personal take on the situation. A lot of that was with the reports that we had heard coming out of the locker rooms and stuff about him wanting to eat cereal instead of going and study film with everybody and stuff like that, play video games, kind of the Paxton Lynch situation. Not exactly the same thing word for word, but it's kind of the same deal that you've got going on there.
Plus, with this is we have a lot to thank with Gary Kubiak for drafting Bulls. During the 26 season, Gary Kubiak was all about Bulls, and then their scouting department just kind of fell in love with him too. Not really fell in love with him, but that was just kind of the way they went, and a lot of it was because LA wanted to go with the guy that Gary Kubiak found and discovered, even though Gary Kubiak stepped away from football and just all that. So it was just a very weird, confusing pick with Garrett Bowles.
All right, now Broncos on the board at pick number 118. Going back over the last five.
Hold on, real quick. I just want to address this with something you said. Wannabes, I have learning disabilities. I do not think that has to do with football IQ. It doesn't really have anything to do with football IQ, but it does have something to do with being able to pick up the offense, being able to pick up the technical aspects of it, being able to pick up the technique, being able to take coaching, which are all issues that Garrett Bowles has had because of learning disabilities that he has. He's done a good job of overcoming them at least a little bit, and I applaud him for that. But there are just some issues that are still coming as a result of them.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's such a hard thing to really kind of gauge, and you really don't know that until you get the player in and you can really work with him. I mean, you can only learn so much with the whiteboard interviews. You can get kind of an idea about their football IQ and stuff like that, but really, there's no way that you can vet that kind of a process. How is he going to learn when he gets to the professional coaching level? Like, there's no way that you're going to understand that until you get in there. And the Broncos are kind of, I don't really know the right word to say this because they're not really hosed, but at the same time, they got dealt a bad hand. That's all there is to it. Now, getting back to the draft here, going over these last couple prospects, we've got Shane Lemieux to the Panthers, Bradley Anae, Zach Moss, Alohi Gilman, and Michael Ojemudia, the cornerback from Iowa, going out and to get us through the top prospects available. Fromm still available, Sadiq Char still available, Ben Bart still available. Here comes a run of the tight ends, Hunter Bryant, Devin Asiasi, Thaddeus Moss still available there, Kenny Willekes. This is a spot for, if I'm the Broncos, I'm trading down big time. The needs are not lining up. I mean, there's just nothing here that really kind of speaks out to me. Solomon Kinley, maybe. Essong Bassi, a cornerback from Wake Forest. Leki Fotu, there you go. There's another decent pick for the Broncos to bolster up that interior defensive line. So kind of had to search for that, though. The way that everything has fallen out, we've done a fairly decent job as far as filling out what you guys want, but the needs that the Broncos have and how we've gone about filling them, with where the draft class is sitting right now, it's not a very good looking good for the Broncos. I can tell you that.
Why don't you go pull up receivers real quick? I want to see if certain receivers are available. There are a couple tackles left. You mentioned Sadiq Charles and Ben Barch. Both of them are playing guard in the NFL. They're not guys that you're going to have inside. There is one name that I do definitely see available, Devin Duvernay. That's where I'm going.
Yes,
get your offense from actual speed. Get your offense a guy who can actually stretch the field and actually create spacing for Jerry Judy that we had at 15 overall, and potentially help Jerry Judy be better in this because there's a lack of spacing in it. I do have one question. Jody Moncrief, Eric, no one talks about Fromm. What are your thoughts? I don't like him. I don't think he's good. I think he's going to be very limited. I think his ceiling is a Case Keenum type of quarterback. Let me make this clear. I think that his ceiling is being that 1 year Minnesota Vikings type, but a little bit more consistently. I think that he's very much on the scheme. As soon as things break down, though, he's really bad.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Arm strength. He's very scheme specific. That's a thing. He's not a guy that has the elite arm talent to throw the ball all over the yard. He's not going to push the intermediate zones. So really, and I saw a comment on Twitter about this not that long ago. This is a very good piece of insight for you guys. If you don't have the arm strength to push those intermediate zones, the defense really only has to guard a big U. Like if you look at the top of the field, you got just a U that they have to defend. So the short crossing and then the outside of the outside passing attack. If they're not going to drive over the middle of the field, stretch the seams, then that's you're very scheme specific in that. And with Jake Fromm, that's a big issue for him. So let's see here. Going back to
hold on. Cody Chepa, let me find this. He keeps asking this question. I really want to address it. I keep forgetting to. Cody Chepa, is Spencer the future at returner, or do we get a late round pick? I think that Denver will look at adding somebody to at least compete for him. I think there are plenty of options for Denver to get one after the draft to compete with Deontay Spencer, because he did have some issues last year with basically deciding on when to actually return it when he shouldn't have. So maybe he ends up winning the job, but I don't think it's his guaranteed.
Yeah. Flippin' Booch coming in, he says, you could teach football, but you can't teach strength and speed, etc. And that goes right in line with this pick. And I'm scrolling down through the comments and everything like that. I'm going to flip it over here, and we're just going to do this. Devin Duvernay is the pick for the Broncos at number 118. So let's get rid of the wide receivers and see how this kind of falls through for everybody. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that and get the pick going without everybody on the stream. I apologize for that, guys.
Click over to my picks. I can't remember who all we picked.
Oh, so yeah, this wrong button. I'm new. I don't know what to do. All right, so going through what the Broncos have so far, we obviously have Jerry Judy, Lloyd Cushenberry, Bryce Hall, Akeem Davis-Gaither, Terrell Burgess, and Devin Duvernay to this point.
So let's see. We're still missing that developmental offensive tackle, which you're not getting at this point. You can still use that third running back, because I don't think that Royce Freeman is long for this roster. I think sometime in training camp as he ends up.
That's actually. Go ahead, Eric. Continue. There was a question up here that I'm going to grab.
I think that we can start looking at running back. I think we're good on receiver. I think we can look at that. Defensive line, we got to find a better nose tackle. We got to upgrade over Mike Purcell. We could use another defensive end for added depth. I don't believe in Joel Heath's ability to be a defensive end 5-tech in the Broncos scheme. He's not a 0-tech. He's not really a 3-tech. Dude is like 300 pounds wet. He's not a guy who's going to be playing inside as much. He doesn't have the quickness to handle inside like Draymond Jones does, because Draymond Jones actually did have success inside despite the lack of size because of how quick he can fire off the snap. So those are still a few places that I'd be looking at. Offensive tackle, as again, just cross it off, because you're not getting one at this point. There's nobody worth it.
Yeah, I think that honestly, interior defensive line, obviously we need to go in that direction. Running back for sure, possibly another cornerback as well. So I'm pretty much in agreement with you on that. I can't find the question. I believe it was from Joseph Malinowski. He asked something about, do you think the Broncos could use Royce Freeman as a trade piece in this draft and maybe move up with a third round pick and maybe move into the second round again? I don't know. I'm not sure if that was the exact question. Joseph, do come back with that, because it was a very good question. I wanted to grab it earlier, but then we ended up just running past it. So
why don't you go back over and show my picks, because Holden Adams has just got on who have we drafted. So just let him do that. As for trading, using Royce Freeman to trade up, it would depend on how far you're moving up for it. I think that his value at this point is probably that of a 6th round, 7th round pick. He's struggled. He hasn't been good. He's been injured his rookie year, adding to the tread or the wear on his tires. Already came into the NFL with a lot of carries on him, like just some issues with it. So click over to my picks, and so we can show Holden Adams real quick.
Okay, so going back on this, Jerry Judy, Lloyd Cushenberry, Bryce Hall, Akeem Davis Gaither, Terrell Burgess, and Devin Duvernay so far. And the Broncos are actually on the clock, pick 178. We're going to kind of pick this up a little bit. Remaining players available, you got Keyshawn Vaughn, Antoine Brooks Jr., Antonio Gandy Golden, Patrick Taylor Jr., Tanner Muse, Tyree Cleveland. Those are the best available on the board so far. So I'm going to scroll down nice and slow so that make sure everyone can see this, so that you can take a look at this, Eric, and see maybe where you're wanting to go here. Lamar Jackson.
Why don't you pull up defensive line real quick, and I'll see if there's any names there that stand out that can fit with the Broncos.
Benito Jones, James Lynch. I know that's a guy I know that you're really high on. See here. Robert Windsor, interior defensive line, Penn State.
Let's see. Scroll up to the top. Yeah, there's no one. So let's go over to running back. I think at this point is you can start looking at that. Let's see. There's one name in particular I'm looking for, Darrington Evans.
I was actually going to say that. I know that you're high on Darrington Evans as well, and it looks like he's probably already gone.
All right, yeah. I rage quit. That's it.
Rage quit, he says. I thought I saw Michael Hasty.
This is pick 178, Blonde Beast. I mean, at this point, with the running backs that are available, I'm not looking at that. Who's the best available?
Antoine Brooks Jr., safety, Tanner Muse, a couple wide receivers, Antonio Gandy Golden, Tyree Cleveland.
Tanner Muse would make a little bit of sense if Denver didn't go get Terrell Burgess and Akeem Davis Gaither.
Michael Divinity Jr., linebacker from LSU.
I'll pass on that. We can look at edges and try to improve the edge depth a little bit. So let's pull that up real quick, and we'll just go over that and see here. So the best one is Jonathan Garvin. I think that he could be solid. Not a big fan of Kendall Coleman for the Broncos scheme. Travis Gibson, he's got a lot of hype surrounding him, and I think at this point he could actually be a really good pick. I think that about fifth round is where he will actually end up going. So that's one guy I would be looking at this point.
All right, so let's go into the comment stream here and see if we can't find somebody. Muse Jackson, Antonio Gandy Golden, Tyree Cleveland, Tanner Muse. Looks like a lot of Tanner Muse so far is what I'm seeing here. Here it is, Chris Sanders. Double up the depth at safety and get Muse.
I mean, but Tanner Muse isn't a safety at the NFL level. He's a linebacker.
Probably.
His role is going to be similar to what you're getting out of Terrell Burgess and Akeem Davis Gaither, so I think that it's just really redundant. Did you hear we offered Aldon Smith a contract? In your thoughts? I didn't hear that. I haven't heard anything about that, so I have no idea. If it's true, then all right, I guess it can make sense. I mean, he bulked up a little bit. I think being at, I think he's like 287 pounds. I think that he can offer up some juice on the inside now. I don't think he'd be a true edge. So definitely very interesting. I'm curious to see how he ends up doing. And I'm really glad he ended up turning his life around. Like, super excited to hear that. Super glad for him. I like seeing people turn their life around.
Yep. I can't remember. I think it was Chad and Zach that had talked about that. And just with his whole story and everything, it's great to see that he actually got himself turned around and hopefully can get back to football. He's still got to get reinstated, but signing that contract with the Cowboys, that was a big move for him. Now, I'm over here on the cornerback depth here because I saw a couple comments about Lamar Jackson. I see Dane Jackson, cornerback out of Pittsburgh as well. Neville Clark, UCF. Levert Hill, cornerback out of Michigan. It's really kind of fallen a little bit rough for us, guys. So I don't know, Eric, what do you think?
Yeah, at this point, I mean, I'd actually be looking to trade down. We're getting a lot of Lamar Jackson's actually over Tanner Muse, so I guess Lamar Jackson will be the guy.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to go to.
I'm not the biggest fan of the selection for the Denver Broncos. I think that needs to play in a cover 3 type, letting him be an outside boundary zone, pressing at the line of scrimmage. Not something that Vic Fangio really likes to do. I mean, I guess Fangio can adjust his scheme, but for time's sake,
Right.
we got to get going that way.
Yeah, I was going to say, so I've got Jackson. We're on the clock again here, so this is kind of a redundant conversation, honestly.
Joshua Kelly.
I was going to say Joshua Kelly. That looks like a pretty good pick to me there. I see Bawana Beast coming in with Lynch there. He actually asked an interesting question, and I remember it specifically. Where would James Lynch play on this defensive line?
5 tech, subbing into 3 tech and sub packages. Like, I mean, this guy is very similar to Derek Wolfe. I mean, he's going to play the same kind of role as Derek Wolfe in the NFL. He's got to get a little bit stronger to do that more for time, but yeah, that's the way that I would be. That's where he would be playing. As for what's on the board at this point, go get your number 3 safety, Joshua Kelly. He has an issue with lowering his head into contact and through the when he's going between the tackles a little bit. But Denver needs a tough guy to run between the tackles, and he offers up some receiving ability. Maybe he can end up being that piece that Royce Freeman just has failed at doing.
Yep.
And I want to make this clear, I really don't want to go James Lynch because I don't think he's going to be here come the actual draft. The Draft Network has never actually boosted him up in their rankings. Nobody expects him to be available day 3. I'll just add that I've spoken to.
Well, and that goes along with me, and that's why I kind of made a big deal about Logan Wilson actually getting some love and being in the top 100 because there was a long time. I think the last one we did on this, he was still down in the 300 level. So they're updating everything as well. So here it is. This is the one here. Do you think the Broncos could use Royce Freeman or a wide receiver and draft pick possibly to move up or to move back later in the first round? So we kind of already addressed that, but to move back into the first round, probably not. I mean, you're giving up at least number 46 to do so as well, at least, and possibly even a future second. So I don't know that I would be. I don't think that that's even necessarily a possibility.
Lynch is what position? 5 tech, 3 tech. He's an interior defensive lineman.
Yep. All right. So, guys, we're running really long here, so we got to kind of move this along.
And then Jody Moncrief. Eric, what about the speed running back on the practice squad as an option? Kalfani Muhammad, I think he's fine to continue to sit there and offer that up. But speed on the outside, yeah, Denver could use it. But I think that a tough between the tackles runner is a little bit more needed, especially after signing Melvin Gordon. I think that they have the outside stuff taken care of and the receiving ability is taken care of.
Yep, that's fair. Francis Bernard, linebacker out of Utah, is still available right here for the Broncos. What do you think about that?
Very interesting pick. I think that he is more of a true linebacker than Akeem Davis-Gaither is, but I think that the Broncos are going to be moving to using kind of more of a sub-package type look. And I think that sub-package type look and using Akeem Davis-Gaither in the slot a little bit and just kind of as that hybrid role. I don't think Francis Bernard offers the same upside. He would be great for the depth as linebacker. But, I mean, unless you're going to be moving on from Alexander Johnson whenever his contract up, which I think is after this year, maybe it's after 2021, then maybe, like, looking at the future. But this isn't a place that I would be going for him. Pick 181, it's tough because right now, I mean, you can pull up offensive tackles and we can go over them real quick because Denver has to try to find somebody for that. Is Alex Taylor still available? I mean,
yes. Here's your top 5 right now: Scott France, Calvin Throckmorton, Alex Taylor, John Runyon, and Tremaine Ankrum.
Tremaine Ankrum, he's going to be a center in the NFL. John Runyon's going to be a guard in the NFL. Calvin Throckmorton is going to be a guard in the NFL.
Yes, he is.
Scott France is likely going to be a guard in the NFL. The only one who has actual tackle ability, Alex Taylor. I actually do like his upside. He is one of the very few guys that I would look at drafting day 3 to be a developmental tackle option. Upside's great. That's the way I would be going.
Yeah. All right, guys, let's get some comments rolling in here. See if we can't get a pick for this. Otherwise, we're just going to have to pick it and move along here because we're running really long. We want to try to cut this short here in about another 5 minutes or so. Balana Beast with an interesting question here. Jarrell Casey costs a 7th. What would Freeman be worth? Now, with this particular scenario, Jarrell Casey is one of the better. 5-time perennial Pro Bowl player. That was a salary dump, if anything. They were desperate to get rid of Jarrell Casey, and that is why the Broncos – and they got a steal. Let's just be point-blank period on this one. The Broncos got a steal getting Jarrell Casey for a 7th-round pick. I would imagine if you're going to get anything for Royce Freeman, anything at all, maybe a 6, maybe, and it's going to be conditional, you might only get a 7th out of it. It's running back, man. Running backs are devalued in the NFL right now. Royce Freeman also has a ton of carries on him coming out of college, has a ton of carries right now in the NFL, and there's just not the effectiveness there. He has not been effective as a 3rd-round pick. It's just point blank period.
on the whole thing with Joel Casey is it was a salary dump. The Tennessee Titans, they're a little bit strapped on cap a little bit, and they have to find a way to pay Derrick Henry. They moved Joel Casey's salary. They took little in return as a result, just so they can dump that salary to keep a running back. And in about 1, 2, maybe 3 years, they'll end up regretting it because you always end up regretting signing a running back to a big contract. Thankfully, Denver's big running back contract is only 2 years.
All right, so I've seen a couple of comments coming in here, and it looks like Alex Taylor.
I've seen a lot of Taylor.
Yep, me too. So let's run this back really fast.
Seen a lot of love for A.J. Dillon in it. I think A.J. Dillon is very limited. I think he would be best moved as a fullback type in the NFL. He just doesn't have the speed or the agility to really handle playing running back in the NFL. He's very different from Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is a lot more agile, despite with his size and everything, than A.J. Dillon is. They are, I mean, outside of their size and being a more powerful runner, their similarities stop there. Yeah, absolutely. Just that's just really it. A.J. Dillon, 243 pounds or something like that. Everyone wanted to compare him to Derrick Henry. Just the balance that Derrick Henry has, the smoothness when he runs the football. There's no comparison. There's really not. Derrick Henry's. There's a reason why he got franchise tagged and then he got paid $10 million. Like he's that good. All right, Chris Sanders coming in with a $2 donation out of California, or is it that's Canada? Sorry, showing that Broncos country is not a geographic location, but it is in fact a hashtag state of being. Excuse me. So in the 6th round, Alex Taylor, 7th round, Benito Jones, and wide receiver Hightower. I can live with that, but I don't think that Hightower is actually going to go that earlier. There's a lot of talk about Hightower being a top 100 pick on the actual draft because of the upside. And one thing that I like to try to do with the simulator is still at least look at players about where they might actually go, where the conversations have them going and everything like that. And it looks like our mock draft froze up on us.
No, it's actually done. No, it did freeze up because the Broncos, that happens on this every now and again. So
guys, we're not going to be able to pick the last 2. That's a bummer.
Yeah, those were trade-out picks anyways. The Broncos were never going to make those. But anyways, guys, sorry about that. This is the second time now that we've actually had the mock draft machine crash out on us. And it's usually the reason why is because we do go so long with it. We never really have those issues. We ended up what is this? I can't read it.
This is my resignation.
This is my resignation, he says. Chris Sanders comes in. He says, I made our last 2 LO. Hey, you know what? That works.
Sure, we'll go with that. I can talk about this a little bit with Benito Jones. He was a guy that, if available, I would have mentioned about him. I don't think he's an upgrade over Mike Purcell, but it's definitely added competition for him. I do have a concern about his lack of length, especially on the interior of the defensive line, but it would be a solid option at that point. As for the last pick, I would be looking at edges. I would be looking at maybe even a developmental quarterback that can come in and compete with Brett Rippon because Brett Rippon doesn't fit the Pat Shurmur scheme. So there's definitely a lot of options still left to go. And Kenny Dietz comes in. I really hope I'm saying your name correctly. If I'm not, please let me know. His hashtag Erick's resignation. Yes, scouts tend to resign or hopefully get fired if GMs don't listen to him. You guys don't listen to me.
All right. So
I'm just kidding. I love you guys.
Bawanabeast Beast comes in. Excuse me. He says, okay. Sorry, guys. Okay. One last question. What were the centers in round 3 to know if Cushenberry was worth pick 46? They were gone. There was no centers available. I mean, we could have,
Keith Ishmael?
Maybe, yeah.
I'd rather take him at 77 than Lloyd Cushenberry at 46.
Well, and I kind of agree with that, but at the same time, without going in and actually looking at that, I don't know. I scrolled down 20 or so people to find a pick for us, so I probably could have done better as far as that goes. So I do apologize for that. But with Cushenberry already taken, it's hard to say. I wasn't going to be looking for a center at that particular point. So maybe go back and if you can catch one, rewatch it, and you may be able to catch some for that. But guys, go ahead, Eric.
Chris Sanders says he's a big nose in reference to Benito Jones. Benito Jones is only like 6'2", and he actually plays about 320 pounds, just a little bit under. So he's not really that big guy, and he definitely lacks the length. I mean, his arms are very short. So that's a big concern. And quickly, before we get out of here, just a reminder, you guys, that finally since there are no more delays with this, we've been trying to have him on 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago now.
It's been about a month now.
It's been a while, and we had him on. We had him one time before to talk about wide receivers. We are going to have my good friend, my daughter's godfather, a college coach. He coaches at
Kenyon College.
Thank you. He coaches the receivers there, but he did used to coach running backs as well. So we're going to have him on, and we're going to be talking about late round options at running back to come in and help complement Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay tomorrow. Next week, either Friday or Saturday, we can definitely do a review of of one of my mock drafts, or I can even do one on my own as we're live and talking about it and breaking things down like that. That's definitely an option we have. But the biggest news, guys, is that we are still working out but we will have something big planned come the draft. Would that at least involve some of us. I know I will definitely be involved with that. And then on Sunday, April 19th, so a week from this Sunday, is our big annual mock draft that the MHH staff does, where we are making the picks and everything like that. So make sure you guys are tuned in about that as well.
Yes, I'm actually really excited to be able to join in on that. It sounds like I'm going to be able to join in with everybody. Ooh. So I know my draft analysis is absolutely terrible. So you can just get out of here.
I was just going to say, you didn't hear?
Huh? What?
Chad told me who I wanted on. I said no to you.
Oh, really? Jeez, man. I swear. All right. Calling all people that want to join the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. I need a new co-host, please. But anyways, guys, that's going to wrap it up.
That's my joke.
All right. But anyways, guys, that's going to wrap it up for us. Let's go back into this really fast and see if I can't pull up just who we have got so far. Nope, not going to let me. So
nobody I wanted.
And nobody that we wanted. Nat Ludlow.
We got your number one receiver, man. You're fine.
I'm all right with it. Nat Ludlow coming in with a $2 donation. Thanks, guys. Very entertaining. Hey, thanks, Nat. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate that.
Also, thanks for the reminder, Bonnabeast. Make sure you guys are leaving a like. But the biggest thing I was going to say is make sure you guys go check out all of our written content at milehighhuddle.com. Check out the YouTube channel of ours, Mile High Huddle. There's a playlist with all my Finding Broncos videos that are up on there. So you guys can definitely check that out as well. Make sure you guys are checking all that out. And the best thing about milehighhuddle.com, the website, is there is a community section on there. So you guys can go there and voice off on what you want. If you guys have a question, you guys can ask us there. You guys can ask us on Twitter, but we definitely prefer it at the website, milehighhuddle.com. You guys can reach us all there. So again, milehighhuddle.com. Go check it out, guys.
Yep. Also, before we get out of here, guys, make sure you guys are following us. You can follow me at Sanderson MHH, for Erick at Erick Trickel. You guys can follow the show at DVDD_pod. Thank you guys once again for joining the Dove Valley Deep Divers Live. We'll see you guys tomorrow night.
You've been listening to the Huddle Up Podcast. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com to keep the conversation going.